Most Excel users know how to create a table. They press Ctrl+T, click OK, and think that's it. But Excel tables have some hidden features that can save hours of work and make your spreadsheets far easier to manage. In this video, I'll show you 5 Excel table tricks that most users never learn.
Hello again, welcome back to another Microsoft 365 tutorial. I'm looking at Microsoft Excel today, and I'm going to show you the 5 table tricks that will transform the way that you use tables. So here is a little set of data. If I click in the data, you can see that we don't have a table tools ribbon pop up here. So at the moment, this isn't a table, but we can easily turn it into a table. I'll do that in just a second. But let me show you what would happen if I added a new column. So if I add the sales column at the end here, and I'm just going to put a formula in here where I want to multiply the quantity that we've sold by the unit price. So I'll just put in an equal sign and I'll say quantity multiplied by, so an asterisk, and then unit price. If I now hit enter, those two are now multiplied together. And I can fill in the remaining rows in the column just simply by double clicking. Okay, so far so good, but the problem is it doesn't actually mean anything. So what I'm going to do next is undo that. And now I'm going to turn this data into a table. Now you can do this in a variety of different ways. You can go up here to Format as Table. You can go to the Insert tab of the ribbon and use Table from here. Or you can do what I'm going to do, which is hold the Control key, press T on your keyboard, and the Control and T will tick the box that says my table has headers, select the data for you, and when we say OK, it now formats it as a table. Okay, great stuff. So next thing I'm going to do is rename the table. So if you have a look up here, you see at the moment the table is called Table 1. I'm going to rename this table. I'm going to use a convention from the database world, putting a lowercase t at the beginning, and then I'm going to call this table Sales. Okay, so I've now renamed my table. That's quite important when you're using formulas with a table, because the next thing I'm going to do is to repeat that exercise where we added the column. So I'll click at the end and I'll type in sales, and watch this. When I hit enter this time, oh, look at that, all the formatting's been copied. Now the next thing is I'm going to put my formula in, but watch the difference. I'm going to put an equal sign in, and then I'm going to click in the quantity column. Wow, now it says at quantity. Put my asterisk in and then click price. And now we've got something that's actually meaningful. So I've got quantity versus unit price. Okay, so that's trick number 2, structured references. So these are what's called structured references, and they are extremely useful in Microsoft Excel tables. A lot of people aren't familiar with this, but the next thing I'm going to do is to use data validation. So I'll go over here to column K, and I'm just going to put data validation on this cell here. So I'll go up to the data tab of the ribbon, and then from there I'll go over here to data validation. And from here, I want to tell Excel to accept a list. So I click in the drop down, and instead of any value, I'm going to choose list. It wants to know where the list is. So I'll click in the source box and just tell it that I want the column there that contains the product. Okay, say OK. And now you'll see a little drop down button appear on the right hand side. Now there are the products: laptop, monitor, keyboard, mouse and headset. But watch what happens now if I add another entry. So I'm going to put a new entry here. I'm going to say it's the 29th of Jan, and I'm going to add a webcam, and I'll say it's south, and we've sold 2, and there are 199 each. Wow, check that out. Okay, so now I've added that. The formula is automatically added. And up here in column K, if you now have a look at the data validation list, that new product webcam has just been added. Okay, a lot of people don't realize that, but tables update automatically. So the next thing I'd like to share is from the table design ribbon. I'm going to click on totaled row. Okay, so if you have a look down here, if I put a little tick in the box there, that automatically adds a total row at the bottom of the table, and by default Excel tries to add up the final column. Now that might not always be what you want, so you might want to add up the quantity, but what would be quite useful, I think, would be to know what the average sale was. So I'm going to click at the bottom of the quantity column, and I'm going to change this to an average. Okay, and there is the average now of that particular column. I'll use a keyboard shortcut just to truncate that. So that's Shift Control and 1 on the keyboard, and that reduces that now to 2 decimal places. So that's tip number 4. This is also really handy because you can turn that on or off as easily as that, okay, just by ticking the box. And each of these columns has the same, okay? So there's the opportunity here is available with each one because we're using a table. Okay, so if I turn the total row back on, if you wanted to, you could do a count here. So if I change that to count, it'll tell me that there are 13. And that now brings me on to tip number 5, which is adding a slicer. Now I'm going to turn the total row off for a moment, okay, because I'd like to show you how easy it is to add a slicer. So from table design, I'm going to go up here to insert slicer. I'm going to put a slicer on the product field and say OK. And so here we now have our slicer. The slicer is essentially a graphical filter. Okay, so we can now filter this by whichever product we want. So if I wanted to see the keyboards and laptops, for example, if I click keyboard, hold the Control key and then click laptop, it'll show me both of those fields. I can clear the filter just by clicking clear at the top there. But once again, watch what happens here. I'm going to put another record in, so 30 this time of January. I'm going to add an iPad, so I'll just put in an iPad and we'll say this was the West. We've sold 5 and they were £750 each. So there's our total automatically added, but have a look at the slicer. See what's happened. Just like the data validation that we looked at earlier, we now have an iPad added to the slicer. So there we are, folks. I hope you found that useful. This is especially useful for reports and dashboards. Of course, you can add slicers on any field that you like. If I went up to table design again and added a second slicer, I can put one this time on the region. And now we have the 2 slicers that can work in conjunction with each other. So if I now wanted to see just the East region, there we go, or the North, or the South, or the West. And of course, we can filter each of the products for each of those regions. So really easy, really useful for reporting.
If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing for news of my latest videos. There's a discount coupon link to my Udemy course in the description.
Which of these tricks was new for you? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to learn more practical Excel skills, there are links at the end of this video.
So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.